Reshaping the military. President Trump, we have been told, is expected sometime today to sign new executive orders. They will include policies with significant consequences for transgender service members, a ban on several diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, and reinstating service members with back pay who were discharged for refusing, back during COVID, to get the COVID vaccine. Plus, marching orders. Pete Hegseth takes the helm at the Department of Defense. His message to the military as he orders troops to, quote, put America first and, quote, never back down. Confirmation carousel. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard get back-to-back Senate confirmation hearings later this week for key positions in the Trump administration. One question that looms over those hearings: could past statements or actions trip them up? Friday night firings. President Trump dismisses more than a dozen federal inspectors general. Their job to tackle waste, fraud, and abuse within the federal government. This unprecedented move not only puts those efforts in limbo, but will likely draw legal challenges. But we start tonight with Weijia Jiang and Nancy Cordes. As the president huddles with House Republicans in Florida, that's where we find Weijia Jiang. And if the president comes out while Weijia is talking, she will have to sit down, and we will sit and listen to maybe some of the president's remarks or monitor them for news as things develop. But Weijia, to start with you, Nancy Cordes on the North Lawn of the White House. I'll get to you on the inspectors general in just a moment. We just set the scene for us at the president's Doral Golf Club with many House Republicans in attendance.
Major, this is a GOP retreat, which means that they are taking a break from the Washington weather and coming here to balmy Miami. And you're right, they are staying at Trump's luxury golf resort in Doral. And they are all gathered here to really hash out policy. Earlier today, we heard from Speaker Mike Johnson, who said it's time to roll up our sleeves and get down to work, because they have to talk about how they plan to execute Trump's very ambitious legislative agenda and how they're going to do that when it comes to money and how much they want to spend and are willing to spend and the processes by which they will do that. So there's a lot of work to be done, but they do expect to hear from President Trump at any moment now. He is scheduled to take the stage. And Major, he will likely talk about and remind them of what he would like them to do. There's also a chance he makes news about those military EOs you talked about. He likes to say it for himself, so we are anticipating that perhaps he announces that he has signed those. But really, at any moment, we are expecting Trump to make an appearance.
And, of course, Weijia, unity among House Republicans, vital to everything President Trump wants to accomplish legislatively. He can't take even two defectors among House Republicans. Do you sense in that room, at this moment at least, there is some measure of unity?
Well, it certainly seems like it, right? Because here they are. They're not on vacation, to be clear, but they are in Miami. Everyone's a lot more relaxed, and we're watching a lot of the members just make their way around the room, a lot of side conversations, because at the end of the day, they want to be aligned. They want to find a way to carry out Trump's agenda, especially because the clock has already started ticking on midterms in less than 2 years now. So they really want to make sure they can unify and maintain control.
Nancy Cordes, to you on the North Lawn of the White House. This action President Trump took Friday to dismiss more than 12 inspectors general, various agencies throughout the federal government. What has been the reaction to it, and what is your reporting related to that?
Well, the reaction from Democrats on Capitol Hill is outrage. The number of inspector generals, which we understand now to be up closer to 17 or 18 individuals, these are individuals who are supposed to be independent. They are not supposed to be beholden to one president or another, because their job, as you well know, Major, having covered so many of their reports over the years, their job is to hold their own agencies accountable, to root out waste or fraud or mismanagement, shine a light on it, to help these agencies operate more fairly, more efficiently on behalf of the American people. So the notion that you would purge almost all of the major federal agencies, cabinet-level agencies, of inspector generals in favor, one would assume, of installing new IGs who perhaps would be more supportive of any president's agenda, is something that is simply unheard of at this magnitude.
And Nancy, as I understand it, President Trump did this the first time. Then Congress passed a law, which is the law governing inspectors general's firings now, that says two things. A president has to provide evidence, substantive evidence, about the reasons for the firing and notification of Congress of at least 30 days.
Right. He fired a couple of IGs in his first term, and that generated quite a bit of controversy. And so Congress did go ahead and impose these new rules to basically beef up protections around these inspector generals. But guess what? President Trump just broke the rules. He did not provide Congress with 30 days notice that he was going to be firing these inspectors general. And he also didn't say why he was firing them, give any specific reason or any explanation about how they were handling their jobs that he didn't like. But interestingly, Major, the reaction from Republicans on all this has been muted. Most of them who have already spoken out have said essentially, well, it's the president's prerogative. He can put in there who he wants. And sure, he broke the law, but hey, we're moving on. And so it's pretty clear that the Republicans who control Congress are not going to try to act as any kind of break on his power in this particular situation, even if he didn't do what the law demands.
Weijia, I want to go back to you in Doral with the House Republicans and what we expect will be remarks the not-too-distant future from President Trump. You have some news about some scheduling matters this week for the president.
Yeah, we just actually checked in with a White House official right here, so we can report that as for those 3 military executive orders, he has not signed them yet, but he is expected to sign them by the end of today. And we also know that on Wednesday, he plans to sign the Laken-Riley Act. Of course, that is named after the nursing student down in Georgia who was killed by an undocumented immigrant. And when he signs this bill into law, it will be the first piece of legislation he signs. And under this law, federal officers would be required to detain any unauthorized immigrants who are accused of a violent crime. It got bipartisan support. Of course, this was a pillar of his campaign. And so we're expecting that on Wednesday, Major.
Weijia, very good. Thank you. And Nancy, I want to go back to you because, as I understand it, over the weekend, you talked to someone who knows quite a bit about inspectors general and the history.
That's right. I spoke to Mark Greenblatt. He was the Inspector General for the Department of the Interior. He was actually appointed to that position by President Trump himself in his first term, but he was fired right along with so many others. He found out in a very brief email on Friday night. He was just returning from a Taekwondo practice. He opened the email and it was addressed to him, and it said, due to changing priorities, you are being fired. Immediately, he lost access to his email. And I spoke to him over the weekend about exactly what he thinks led to these firings. Take a listen. President Trump said this is a very common thing to do. Is it?
Yeah, that's something that I have to quibble with. This is absolutely unprecedented. There is nothing that's ever happened remotely like this. When President Trump said this is normal, standard course of action, like what happens with the 94 U.S. attorneys, that's just factually not true.
So he's basically crying foul on President Trump's claim that this is standard, that presidents get rid of these inspectors general, bring in their own people. We just haven't seen anything like this at this scale before. But we do know, Major, that it is something that that some Trump allies have called for. It was laid out in Project 2025, get rid of all the IGs so that you'll have more latitude to do what you want as you work to remake the federal workforce. And his own former chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, also made the case for it in an op-ed a few weeks ago.
Nancy Cordes on the North Lawn of the White House. Weijia Jiang with House Republicans and soon President Trump in Doral. Thank you very much.